why don't you take a seat and tell me what appears to be the problem? I put out a call on Instagram to garner some questions for the 75th episode of Consult the Doctor. It's a series I enjoy. I like thinking about questions that the viewers generate, so I always really enjoy it. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I can. For this 75th anniversary episode, I have 6 questions that I selected, and I will start off with some really practical ones, and then I will go on to slightly more philosophical ones. So, first question, I'm just writing down timestamps, is what about iron gall inks in piston fillers? I have used iron gall inks in piston fillers. I have also seen horror pictures online of people who put iron gall in their fountain pens and who had completely molten feeds that were fully disintegrated. I have never experienced that. In fact, in my yard lead pens for the longest time, I would have iron gall because I thought it matched the silver very nicely. I've never had issues. What I will say is, you never know. If you have pens with rubber or latex parts in them, think of lever fillers, think of fancy filling systems, bulb fillers, whatever filling system has a lot of rubber in it, I probably would not do it. I would not use iron gall ink just to be safe. Cartridge converters, no issues. Piston fillers, I think it can be okay. If there are, again, heavy rubber seals or something, maybe it's not ideal. Most importantly, clean your pen. This should apply always. Any type of ink, saturated inks in particular, shimmer inks, what have you, always clean your pen. And that also means that if you take a long time to empty a pen, maybe don't put in such an ink. Then maybe stick to more neutral colors, washable blues, that kind of stuff. Because if you don't use a pen for a while, water in the ink starts to evaporate. That leaves more dye that can clog your feed. All kinds of stuff can happen. So take that into account as you select your ink. I don't immediately see any issues, but there's going to be someone in the comments who said, I put iron gall ink in a piston filler and the entire house exploded. Well, in that case, maybe don't do it. Okay, this led naturally in my mind to the second question, which was, can you talk about the ink making process, raw ingredients and such? Well, I don't make ink, so I feel a bit underqualified to talk about this. From how I understand it, though, ink consists of a couple of ingredients. There is dye, which is very important because the dye makes the hue of the ink, right? The color of the ink. There is water because ink has to be liquid and flow. But there are other ingredients that you might not think about. Typically, fountain pen ink, or any ink for that matter, contains a binding agent. Because if you would just have a suspension of dye particles in water, once the water evaporates from the page, the dye particles could just fall off. So that's not really great. Because there's a binding agent that makes sure that ink actually sticks to the page, which not everybody always thinks about. And then usually there is some sort of fungicide in the ink as well. Because inks are liquids. They are stored in jars. They may be in dark places. You keep dipping a pen in and taking it out, but you don't know where that pen has been. Be careful to not let a strange pen dip into your inkwell, because you don't know where that pen has been. So, because of all that, usually there is a fungicide to make sure that fungi don't grow. And yet some inks go bad. I've had some G.R.E inks. I have nothing against the brand, but I have had some inks that went bad, and I put in a pen, I drew it out, and there was a sort of string of goo hanging from the nib. That's not what it's supposed to be like. Really, that's what I have to say on ink, because I've never called myself a fountain pen expert that I know of, but I'm certainly not that knowledgeable about ink. I just use it. So if there's anyone out there who is very knowledgeable about ink, then please feel free to add more comments and insights into this. And if I was wrong, then point it out too. But that's how I understand the whole ink business. A very pragmatic question. It comes down to, can you remagnetize a Visconti cap? Damn Viscontis. So this is someone who had a Visconti with a magnetic cap, and it lost its magnetic properties over time. Can you do anything about it? I haven't experienced that. What I have experienced myself is that the magnet started to rust. It was very interesting. I started to get rust particles on the section. I thought it was the section that was rusting, but they just wiped off. And when I shone a little flashlight or torch, as they say, into the cap, I could clearly see that ring of magnetic material had rusted. The way I understand magnets is you can magnetize them by rubbing another magnet along the same axis. So if this is your magnet, you take another magnet and you kind of rub it along like this. That's what magnetizes material, and I'm assuming that can remagnetize a magnet. Or you could maybe have you can buy those really powerful magnets on Amazon or probably AliExpress, the really powerful magnets. I forget what they're called, but people use them. It's not molybdenum, but I want to say it's something like that. Anyway, it's very powerful magnet. Maybe if you stick one on that magnetic part of the cap and you leave it there for 2 weeks, maybe that will remagnetize it as well. At least even if it's local, but then at least maybe it'll stick better. Those would be my immediate thoughts. But if anyone has any better ideas, I'm listening. That sounded really needlessly aggressive. If you got any better ideas, I don't know. If you have other input, please say so. Okay. The final kind of pragmatic question, but this is getting into more philosophical material, so I wanted to go there. Number 6 versus number 8 nibs. Is bigger better? What's the appeal of the number 8 nibs? Because more and more companies are using them. You see that now in Italian companies. For example, Santini has those big nibs, and then you have companies like, I happen to have one here, like this pen a lot. The Magna Carta Mag 1000, which has this colossal nib. If you don't believe me, here is a Visconti, the trusty opera master, with a number 6 nib. Yes, this is a very large nib. The appeal of the larger nib, in my mind, is simply that it looks good, and it's a personal matter. So here we have a Pilot Metropolitan with something that's about, that's the kind of their own system, but sort of number 5-ish. And then, like I said, I know that was very fast. I'm holding it up more longer, and now here you have a number 6 nib, so definitely bigger. And you have a number 8 nib, which I do not have at hand right now, but oh yes, I do. Just a unit, but here we go. Here we have a Bock number 8 nib right next to a number 6 nib, so looks bigger. May not look an awful lot bigger, but it is bigger than a number 6 nib. Visual appeal. I think that's just it. When you use a fountain pen, you choose to use not a ballpoint. That was a profound statement. And likewise, you choose to not use a pencil. You're using a fountain pen. And what is the defining feature of the fountain pen or the writing experience? What makes that writing experience? The nib. That was a nice bit of Socratic chain questioning. Rhetorical questions. Anyway, that's the thing. And if you have a nice nib, you want to show it off. I think that's the appeal. But again, join in the comments, because I'm interested to see what other people think. I think people like it because it looks bigger, and when it's bigger, it's more pronounced. And when it's more pronounced, it just looks good. It looks good, right? It exaggerates the features that people like in the fountain pen, I think. Now, having said all that, the question here is bigger better? That, I think, is a very nuanced question. Insert various jokes here. But when it comes to nibs, I don't think so. But I also don't not think so. So, again, another profound statement. But what I mean by that is, experientially, I have zero evidence that number 8 nibs are better than number 6 nibs, or number 5 nibs for that matter. I can't say a number 8 nib always writes better. I just don't think that's the case. I will say that the number 8 nibs I have are on pretty nice pens, and as a result I like the writing experience because I like the pen and I like the nib. But I don't think you can objectively state that, let's say, a number 8 nib is always smoother or softer or wetter than a number 6 nib. The wetness does not necessarily increase with the size, for example. So what is the case is that if you have a B.R.E 380 nib, that's the official name of the nib unit I just showed you. This is a 380 nib made by B.R.E. This is a gold one. They also make them in titanium. This is 750, so this is 18 karat gold. They come with ebonite feeds. Now, people like ebonite feeds because ebonite has very good flow properties. So from that perspective, maybe it seems a bit wetter, but I've had my share of drier number 8 nibs too. The titanium nibs tend to be a bit softer, open up a little bit under pressure, and as a result that may make the flow a bit wetter. But having said that, I really don't, I would never say, well, number 8 is always wetter, it's always smoother, it's always soft. That's simply not true. Having said that, the more tipping there is, the more there is to polish. Maybe number 8 has slightly more tipping because everything is a bit bigger, so then there's more to polish, maybe a bit smoother, but still. I've had scratchier number 8 nibs, I've had drier number 8 nibs. I just don't think you can make a sweeping generalization. So that's what I would say. And as I've said before, everything you can do goes through evolutions and revolutions. And when I got, I'm sorry, I keep saying this, I feel, but it's just to illustrate a point. When I got interested in fountain pens, this was about 2010, late 2010. Flex was the stuff. Everybody wanted Flex, and Noodler's just launched its Nib Creeper. I think it was their first pen, but the smaller pens they had later, you got the Ahab and all, and the Nippon set, all that stuff. But they launched it. Everybody wanted Flex, and everybody wanted vintage Flex, and nobody could find it. And you had that, and that was the whole thing. That was the stuff. That was everybody wanted. I mean, you know what I mean? Not every single person, but it was a fad. And then we got ink, and more different brands of ink. And then the hot thing was shading ink. Shading ink became the thing. And then it became ink with sheen. Sheening ink was the thing. And then it became, I want to say glimmering ink. Is that the proper term? Shimmering ink, sorry. So with that's why I want to say that, ink with glittery bits in it, like little like silvery powder, the kind of stuff you use on art projects, or gold glittery stuff. That became the thing. Everybody loved that. And I feel that now we're in a situation where Arco celluloid, great example. At some point, everybody wanted Arco. Everything had to be Arco, to the point where brands were even using the term Arco for material that wasn't Arco celluloid, but they just call it Arco. I think it was riding on that wave. Everybody wanted Arco, the brown, the green Arco, everybody wanted it. And now we've reached a stage where everybody wants big nibs. The bigger a nib is, the better it is. So we've evolved from number 5, number 6, then number 6 was big. And we got number 8, and then number 8 was big, and as was correctly pointed out, now we have number 10, and number 10 is really big. Well, give it time, and we'll have number 12. Why not a number 20 nib? I mean, at some point, that's a diameter this size, and it won't fit in normal pens anymore, but theoretically, this sky is the limit, within reason. I don't think we'll ever see number 5 nib, because it would be this wide in diameter, because that's what they're named after, right? The numbers, in case I probably should have defined that first, it's the diameter of the feed. So 6 millimeters, 8 millimeters. At some point you can't get any wider. Nobody's going to use a like 200 millimeter nib, and like a number 200 nib, because you would have, well, not that big, but you would have a very large feed. It's not practical. But within reason, I could see number 12 nib happening. So think it's a trend. It was an incredibly long answer to a simple question, but I guess that's what you're here for. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video. I hope I haven't bored you to death. We have 2 more questions. So let's move on with... we have 4, just taking notes. 5. I thought this one was interesting, and I'm not entirely sure what is alluded to, but I will do my best to answer it. What do you think of influencers in the fountain pen world? There is the fear of missing out related to endless special editions and limited edition releases, and a flood of misinformation, even disseminated by fountain pen celebrities. That last part, I'm not sure exactly what we're alluding to, and I'm not trying to dodge the question. I simply don't know. So what I will say is, I work on the premise, and this is a Socratic thing, that people do not willingly do evil. That they do what they think is best, and unfortunately what is best for them at that moment is not always best for everyone else. So I would certainly hope that if you have a reasonably, sorry for the bad pronunciation, if you have a reasonably popular medium or channel, whether that is YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, I would hope you do not choose willingly to disseminate what you know to be false information. But it happens. I have claimed well in the past completely stupid information. When I was reviewing, I think it was a TWSBI, and I was talking about the way the threads work on the piston when you disassemble it. And I thought for some reason, and I don't know why I thought this, that you have to turn it right way to loosen it. And I thought that was done in certain parts of the world, that it was flipped from other parts of the world. A stupid thought. I don't know why I thought that. And someone pointed out it has nothing to do with that. That doesn't exist. It's simply because the piston turns one way. So if those threads would turn the same way, every time you open up the piston, the whole piston might come out. How could I have been so stupid? I never sought to spread false information. But through my own stupidity and not actually checking something, I did spread that. And I feel bad for that. So, correcting it whenever it comes up, which is not often, but it comes up. And here, right now, I do believe that if you make a mistake, again, I never set out to mislead anyone, and you then correct that mistake by saying, I was wrong, it was a stupid thing to say. People say, okay, yeah, I get it. That was not, thanks. You made that clear. That was not your intention. If it is deliberate misinformation being spread about pens, etc., then that's a whole different story. So that's what I would say. What you need to be aware of when you build up an audience, as I have over many years, and I'm very proud of that because it's a nice accomplishment, and I'm very happy that people are interested in what I have to say. You have to be extra careful about what you say. And you have to try to be nuanced in what you say, because people may interpret things in ways that you did not mean for something to be interpreted. One of the things for me that working in academia has done is that it has given me I hope I can use the term humility about the extent of my knowledge. Because when you focus for a very long time on a certain topic, as you do when you write a doctoral dissertation, you start off often with a lot of bravado, but you'll learn very quickly how little you know. And even now, the topic I wrote my dissertation about, I know quite a lot about. There are people who know a lot more about it than I do, but I know quite a lot about it because I spent really 5 years studying that one thing. But that's literally, in my case, 2 cubic millimeters in the brain, which is a lot bigger than a cubic millimeter, right? So you learn how careful you have to be asserting expertise. And that's why I said earlier in this video, I don't recall at any point saying I'm a fountain pen expert, because I'm not. There are people in this world who know a lot more about fountain pens than I ever will. I think of someone like say Richard Binder, who spent a lot of time repairing pens, whose website I consult regularly. His glossopedia of pen terms is fantastic, but he has forgotten more about fountain pens than most of us will ever know, right? So that is an expert. I have no trouble saying, yeah, that is an expert, but I'm not. Anyway, so this was maybe a slight digression, but there we are. So there is that. As to influencers, it's difficult. because I try to not be an influencer. But sometimes a company sends me a product. Recently, I got this. I've been using. Yesterday, we had a undergraduate student conference, and I was using this pen. Is it this? Yes, it's by a company called TAG. It's a Taiwanese company. This is a rollerball. They also sent me a fountain pen. It takes fountain pen ink. The rollerball fountain pen obviously takes fountain pen ink. I really like it. These are products I really like, but I want to be careful because my job is to review them. So I try to be honest, but frankly, in that case, there was a lot I liked. And someone then pointed out, actually, I think they're pretty expensive. And I didn't really mention that. Then I felt bad, but I understand it's a relative term. But still, it's fair to point that out. And so I try to do an actual review of pens, with a clear exception once in a while. When I reviewed my own pen, I can't say that's a review. It's my pen. Leonardo made that based on materials from Jonathan Brooks. Jos Appelboom sold it. I'm not objective. How can I be? It's my pen. I picked the material. I picked the model. I picked the engraving. How can I be objective? It's not possible. But then you have to say that. And I'm pretty sure I did in the review. I'm not even sure if I call it a review, because how can I review that? Anyway, what I sometimes find with influencers, and this is the last thing I'll say about this question, and I'll move on to the last one. What I find weird is that 10 years ago there were no influencers. There was no such thing. I know there were people kind of pushing brands, and I know that happened, but before social media, influencers were not a thing. And now we have kids whose career ambition is to be an influencer, and I find that highly disturbing, because it's not a very glamorous life. Not when you're in the fountain pen niche. Maybe if you're in specific niches like makeup or specific clothing or whatever, that's different, but it's not glamorous. It's fun, otherwise I wouldn't do it. But it's not a career. I can't live off of what I do. And again, that might be different if you have 10 million followers and you have all that kind of stuff, but I will never have that, nor is it really my ambition. I want to share a certain amount of information and enjoyment and maybe passion that I have for a topic. But that's it. I don't want to push products. I don't want to be in a situation where Mont Blanc just gets casually thrown into a conversation so that people don't want to buy it, or that I'm this is Visconti, but that I'm just sitting around like this in a video just to sort of sneakily push that brand. And I'm obviously poking a bit of fun at influencers now, but I think you know what I mean. It's also the reason I don't do unboxing videos. I don't understand unboxing videos. I know that people find them enjoyable to watch. I don't, because it's someone unboxing a product that they haven't used. So you cannot say a single useful thing about that product because you've never used it. So then what's the point? You open a box. I don't really get it. But to each their own. I'm not judging it. If you love unboxing videos and it makes you happy, watch them. Right? I just won't do them. There's one more thing I should address. Sorry, I know I said that was the last thing. The fear of missing out with endless special and limited editions. That I agree with. I feel that we live in a day and age where certain brands are pushing limited editions that are not that limited. If there are 5,000 of something, I don't call that a limited edition. That's a lot of items. If there are 10 of something, now we're talking. If there are 50, sure. 5,000 is a bit much, in my mind. It can lead to kind of a forced fear of missing out. It can lead to people feeling a pressure to then buy that thing because it's limited. I better get it before it runs out. And in those cases, my standard advice is, but make sure that you get what you enjoy. I just got this pen. I just recorded the review before I recorded this video. It's a $17 Canadian calligraphy pen from China. It's like a kind of like a Pilot Parallel, but it's much broader. So this one is 11 millimeters. It's a lot of nib. Again, reviews coming. And $17 is not super expensive. I know there are cheaper things, but it means it's not that expensive. I'm having a lot of fun with this because it does this sort of stuff, right? So this is ultra wide calligraphy. If you want to buy an expensive limited edition, do it. But don't feel that you're missing out just because it's expensive or limited. Something else will come by, and that will be a fun thing to own too. So it's not necessary. And that might actually be a nice segue into the final question. Again, I really hope I haven't bored you to death. Timestamp. What do you think about kind of like the showing the state of the collection social media posts, which can then lead to comments like, well, cheap pens are nice too. And this person added, just to be sure, I'm not talking about the GOAT pen videos that you do. And no offense was taken. Let me quickly say this about the GOAT videos. The GOAT every year is the same thing. It's greatest of all time pen, but they're not really greatest of all time. I know, it's just the pens that I've used most that year. And I like doing those videos. They get insane viewership, much more than my regular reviews. And I think it's because people like to, like maybe two things. One is they like to see fancy pens. And often in the list are some fancy pens. But also they like listening to me ramble. I sometimes get that feeling. So I hope that's not said in arrogance, but I mean, like, I get that feeling. So it's also fun for me. It's a video I record very late in the year, usually the last days of the year. So you have that relaxed feeling surrounding Christmas, that kind of stuff. I record it, and it's a fun way to end the year. So we're now talking about that. Yes, I think it's difficult. People can post whatever they want. So if they want to post a picture of, look, these are the pens I have now, of course they're allowed to do that. But yes, there is a fine line between showing something as, look, this is a pen I really love, and now I'm showing off. Here is 10 grand worth of pens, and there's just 3 pens on the table. Again, you can do whatever you want, but there are consequences, and one of the consequences that I find difficult, and that's why I like reviewing pens like this that are less expensive. It can lead certain people to feel, and I've had conversations with people like that in pen club meetings or pen shows, or sometimes on the street. Yes, occasionally I do get recognized on the street. It has happened. They say something apologetic about, I only have Twisbees, or I'm sorry, I only have Platinum Preppies. That's awesome. You shouldn't feel pressured to own thousands of dollars worth of pens. Instead, it's kind of insane when you think about it. So get what you like, what you can afford. Don't go into debt over buying this. Get what you can afford, and then enjoy that. And if that's only Pilot Parallels or Platinum Preppies or Lamy Safaris, then that's awesome. And sometimes the pen world is incredibly pedantic and arrogant, and it gives people the feeling that they are wrong for only owning inexpensive pens like that, or that they are not. I've seen that happen on forums, that those people are not true pen lovers, because if they would be true pen lovers, they would have at least 3 Viscontis or something like that. And it's just crap. It's just nonsensical crap. Anyone who enjoys a fountain pen should be able to do that without being told, yeah, but you only have a Preppy, so... Because that's just arrogant crap that I find beyond offensive. Now, if I look at my own collection, that's carefully curated. I say this without any arrogance, it's carefully curated. I got rid of a lot. There are some pens in it. Right now I'm using this a lot. This is an Asvine P80. It's not as cheap as some pens are. I forgot the price. I'm just gonna leaf through my review notebook that I have in front of me. I also am very aware of the fact that I didn't buy this. With a Bach nib, $67, and with a regular steel nib, $53. So I have pens that are more expensive than this. It's a really fun pen. Piston filler, smooth, because of the metal overlay, quite a bit of heft to it. A really fun pen. And I also have pens that are more expensive, but I mean, I keep what I enjoy. And this one, frankly, I'm probably going to end up giving away at some point. I'll just give it to someone that I run into, and then they like a pen, they have a nice pen. But it's important. Respect everyone, whatever level they are at. They may not be into collecting $10,000 pens. I'm not into collecting $10,000 pens. But some people are, and that's cool. And if you have that money and that's what makes you happy, you should do that. But you don't have the right to then look at other people and say, ew, you only have preppies. Oh my God. That's not fair, and that's not cool, and that shouldn't be done. That's what I would say. This is now a 13-minute video. I've wasted too much of your precious time, and I apologize. So I'm going to end it here. If you have any other questions, please leave them below. Final thing I will say is thank you. Sincerely. I've been doing this for a while now. I appreciate my viewership. And without you, the videos would not exist. That's a fact. I'm spitting facts. I try to be cool for once. Usually not very successful. Anyway, I appreciate that. I really appreciate it. I've met astonishingly kind, nice, generous people through this. I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind comments. I cannot overstate. Content creators deal with some impressively unpleasant stuff. Invariably. I don't think we deserve that, but we do get it sometimes. Sometimes more than sometimes. Then seeing a sincere, kind comment from someone, even if it's something as simple as, I just really love your videos, it helps. It helps us a lot. And I'm not fishing for compliments. If you enjoy someone's content, please let them know. It means a lot to us. Really does. So there you have it. I appreciate your viewership a lot. Thank you. I hope this was useful. Many more consult the doctors and reviews to come. Gladly see you later. Bye.